Hey, thanks for joining us. You are listening to Youth Unhinged by Yuvaan and Karan. When Fanatic Jen hit us in the face, we both sat down and decided to talk about it. If you happen to be around our age or seem confused on what is going on in the minds of us millennials, cheer up, you have come to the right place.
Hi, Guan Xi. We've got Mr. Lew Guan Xi on the show. Welcome, Mr. Lew Guan Xi. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, doing good. Still alive.
All right. Very good, very good. It's been a long time since I last saw you. So for those of you who are tuning in today, Lew Guan Xi and I have been classmates for 3 years. Well, in the same school for 3 years, classmates for 1 year. So Lew, you finished up SPM with straight A's. And then from the science stream, you did a big switch into art stream, journalism. Am I right?
It is journalism. Actually, mass communication is a broad field of communication, and journalism is one of the branch. And what I'm studying is journalism. So yeah, need to make it specific.
Right. So what? It's a degree in journalism.
Yeah, journalism is basically where you learn about the mechanism of news, like what you saw on newspaper daily and what you listen on radio, what you watch on TV, the broadcast. And journalism is basically just all thing about news. And in brief definition, journalism actually means the, how do we say that? Actually means the record of facts and record of everyday events. So it can be in a lot of forms, like it can be radio broadcast, TV broadcast, online journalism where you saw the news websites, blogs, and even like right now, podcasts, you can do like news analysis, those kind of things. Those are all journalism.
I like that. Very straight to the point.
Yeah, then actually I want to ask, what exactly made you to choose this field? Like, what was the main reason for it?
Actually, there's no like really specific reason for me to choose journalism. It's because first, when I was in my Form 5, before I take SPM, I actually found that I love writing things, like basically just express myself through words and text. So after SPM, I was thinking like, how could I make a career, or how could I, take care of my own life by writing skills? And then first I thought like maybe I could write like stories or novels or those kind of things. But after some thinking, I think like, because those things is like you need to get popular in order to be able to earn enough money for your life. So I was thinking like, why don't I go ahead to like do some writings that could give me a stable job and also a stable income. And I thought of like becoming a reporter, because they write news and they are working for a media organization, so they get paid like monthly. So that is where I think that journalism is my thing. And when I dive into the field and move on in the semester, and I was like, this is actually what I really like. So I just carry on till now.
Glad that you find a correct occupation for you. We both are still wondering what are we doing in our lives.
You will find it someday. Don't worry.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Okay. Do you see any realistic prospect of you finishing your degree completely online?
Yeah, because based on Xiamen University, how they manage the pandemic and also like their policy against MCO and online class, because they follow the China style. Because all of us know that China, their policy on pandemic management is they want to make the case zero, and that is practically what Xiamen University Malaysia has been doing for the past 2 years. Where like even I suppose like even like last year before the peak, there was a slight drop of the case, but Xiamen still doesn't allow us to go back. So that is how Xiamen is actually managing it. But earlier this month, January, and they actually released a note that called all of us to go back to campus starting from the 28th of March. I assume that is because of like the high vaccination rate, and also at that time the case was dropping. But right now you see these few days, it's like yesterday is the third consecutive day for us to hit 5,000 again, and with the new wave of Omicron, all those things. So it is still very uncertain. So if you're asking me about like realistic prospect to like finish the whole degree at home, I would say it is possible. But if you're really asking like a real percentage or like a really projection of it, I can't give you a specific answer there. But it is possible that I might need to have have finishing my degree online, but which is the thing that I don't hope for. So yeah, let's just pray we can get through this together.
And then, do you think these online classes actually make you kind of lost interest in what you're doing right now, or you can still go through with the same passion and interest that you're already having right now?
I would say, yeah, because I can actually divide into two stages here, because the first stage is since 2020 April, where the online class thing is first introduced. And at that time, I was telling myself that, we need to adapt to the change, because like right now outside there is the deadly virus and pandemic, all those things. So it's like there's nothing I can do. But after like 1 year, but since October last year, I was actually like facing a huge burnout. It's like because you need to sit in front of the laptop for a whole day,
Train.
and then listening to lectures. And some lecturers, they don't even conduct live classes. They just record them speaking in front of the camera and just upload on the academic platform that we are using. So you just watch videos. Not to say like just this previous semester, I faced a huge free rider in my team in one of the assignments. Not one, two of the assignments. He's a huge free rider, which makes me more frustrated. And sometimes I just want to like drop everything and just do absolutely nothing. And that emotion actually continues till now. Like right now, I want to like, because my new semester starts in 1 week, which is after Chinese New Year. After next week is Chinese New Year, and after Chinese New Year, my new semester starts. Like right now, I want to get some light things done, and I still didn't have the motivation due to this thing. So yeah, hopefully, I was hoping that when new semester start, all this can end and I could have the passion back.
It's interesting that you pointed that out, because I like me personally also, I've noticed a lot of people just facing burnouts because literally everyone is doing this, right? Studying online, looking in front of a laptop. So first of all, you're probably not alone. And then secondly, the thing that has to be noted with lockdowns and restrictions like this is the fact that mental health is actually a real thing. And then a lot of people are being impacted a lot by not being able to go out and not having face-to-face classes in a number of ways, right? You're not focusing enough. You're in your night dress, perhaps, not brushing your teeth, not having your butt, just sitting in front of the laptop just because you can, and so it's very,
you're being the worst version
isn't it?
of yourself.
It's very demotivating. And so do you think that your university stance is what do you think of it?
Actually, this is just not me saying, and like based on my qualification, I'm not qualified to comment on this, but all of the evidence, all of the scientific reports, scientific investigation, and also research has already shown that it is impossible to make it zero. Like even though today you can copy the China style of managing the pandemic, you like even if one case they lock down the whole city, like today you can make it zero, but tomorrow it will definitely comes back again the case. So all of the evidence, data, statistics, research has already shown that we cannot make the virus zero. We cannot achieve zero case. It is impossible. So it's like the better way is to actually live together with the virus. And especially we have vaccines right now, even though like vaccines cannot protect you 100%, but it can it can give you certain level of immunity, which can prevent you from dying from the virus and prevent you from suffering from severe illness. So this is the way that we should do with it, because the thing is, like, people who are chasing, or countries who are chasing for the policy where they want to make the pandemic, they want to make the cases become zero, to me they are still craving, and they still can't move on from the past norms. They still want to go back to the life before the pandemic, where you can go out not wearing masks, you don't need to care about social distancing, you can always do big gatherings whenever you want. So that is before the pandemic. But I would say even though like right now, even though you could really make the case zero, we can't really go back to life before 2020.
So you're saying that's the point of having, a zero case situation, because you want to make it as things were, and you're saying that's not possible. Oh, interesting way to look at it. Okay, so what do you think job prospects are like for someone studying journalism in Malaysia?
Actually, journalism is a very wide field, because it's not like you study journalism, you end up becoming a journalist or a reporter or a news anchor. No, because in journalism, you actually learn, because just now I said journalism is a branch of mass communication, and mass communication is the broad thing which cover all the fields of communication like advertising, film, all those things. But journalism is actually the biggest branch inside communication. So when you study journalism, you also study like how to cater to your audience, how to manage a media organization, or just a own page of you, like right now you are managing a podcast page. So how to manage those things, those are also the things that you learn. But there are actually a lot of things that you can do. Like you can also become a filmmaker. You learn how to shoot video. When you study journalism, you can be a filmmaker. Filmmaker doesn't necessarily those films like BBC News or those documentary films. No, you can also make movies even you study journalism, and you can be very successful. And you can also be an advertiser, because you know how to cater to the audience. You know how to analyze the audience. That is one of the most important skill set inside. When you aim to become a journalist, you cannot. If you want to be a journalist, you cannot just know how to write the news, and you cannot just know how to broadcast the news. No, you need to know knowledge from literally all the fields, because you are the one who are going to take those information and give it to the audience. So yeah, so when you have basics in all kinds of field, like for example politics, economy, finance, environment, etc., you have basic in this kind of field. When you want to switch jobs to this kind of field, it's relatively easier for you. So that is what I would say about journalism. It's a very wide field, a lot of job prospect. Not just you need to work in a news organization.
Wow, actually, that's way more than I expected. I mean, to be honest, in my opinion, I don't really know much about journalism, but hearing from you, I can see that there's definitely a lot of special or required skills to be a proper journalist. So, what do you think are the skills that you're trying to acquire while you're doing the degree? Like, what do you need to become a proper journalist that you wish you want to be?
So to become a proper journalist, first thing is definitely technical skills, and all those things you can learn. If you take a course in university, you can definitely learn that.
Yeah.
So that is the thing that you must master and make it. You need to normalize it. You need to make it inside you. It's like when it comes to writing news, it's just like just like how we do maths. Like when it comes to 1 + 1, you definitely say it is 2. For no reason, it is 2. So you need to master the skills, technical aspect until that stage. And besides that, as a journalist, you also need to follow the events development inside your country. At least, if you aim to be a journalist inside Malaysia, you need to at least know what is happening in Malaysia, because journalists doesn't just write news. Because journalists are the first bunch of people who get to the news. Like when there's something happening, somebody will call the journalist, and journalists will go there to record the thing. But instead of that, journalists will also need to use the news articles produced by other news organizations for them to further develop it. That is what we call follow-up stories in journalistic terms, or we call it enterprise story in journalistic terms, where you pick a certain topic, for example, mental health after the pandemic. So that is a topic, and you need to develop a stories from that. And when you want to develop stories or develop content from it, you need to know what is the trend of mental health in Malaysia right now after the pandemic hits. So for those information, you need to go ahead and read the news, not just the news from your organization, but also the news from other organizations, and some even from the international news site, like all those Wired service. Like, so all those things, you need to really go and dive into those topics. And For journalism students, like I would say in your university period, you can still pick this kind of topics according to your interests. But when you are really going into the industry, you need to really like right now I said, like just now I said, you need to not master, but you need to at least have certain level of basics in all kinds of field. Like right now, actually, if you ask me, I hate economy because I hate the numbers, I hate the statistic, I hate the graphics, I hate the figures. If you don't even have single basic economy and your editor say, oh, why don't you go write for the economic desk, and what you will do? So yeah, that is definitely a thing that you need to master. So I would say the core skill that need a journalist besides the technical skills is definitely the ability to follow up on the news events and also dive into knowledge of various fields, not just like, because I would say many people would think that journalists only needs to be pro in politics or social topics, not those kind, not others.
It seems to me like you have a lot of basic knowledge on a lot of on a wide variety of subjects. So I mean, when you talk about economics, for instance, I know zero on it, but then every single journalist is able to elaborate on the stock market and stuff like that. Yeah, for example, right? If you are a banker, or you're probably not going to be allowed to trade stocks because you have potentially information that no one else can get their hands on. So that's called insider information. So because of that, I imagine journalism to a certain extent, you get your hands on potentially leaked information, classified information. Does that bar you from doing anything?
That actually depends on two aspects. The first thing is your interviewee or your subject. Like for example, just now as you say, if I am an economy reporter and I'm reporting on certain, like there are rumors. For example, there are rumors that certain stocks of a certain big company will drop very drastically, and I need the information to prove it true or prove it false. And that is when you need insider information, because normally this kind of big company, they know that their stock might drop. They won't tell the public their stock will drop. So that's where you need insider information, and that is where it depends on the subject, because you really need to go approach them and try to dig information from them. But if their decision is they don't want to disclose to you any information, and there's nothing you can do. It's like, unless this is a very controversial method of getting information, where we call the undercover technique, or you use the deception technique. It's actually outlined inside the code of ethics of journalists, where these methods are allowed when you have used all possible ethical and all possible ethical and normal ways to gain information, but they still don't.
This is getting juicy.
You can go and you can actually go and like you disguise as someone, or you just go undercover, or you just lure somebody to give you information. But that is very controversial. So yeah, so the first thing is depend on the subject, and the second thing, it actually depends on the law inside the country that you are working. For example, in Malaysia, just now you said about the insider information or information leakage. In Malaysia, we have this law called the Official Secrets Act, and that is where the government has absolute rights to declare any documents that they think can be official secret. Then they can declare it as official secrets. They don't need to tell you the reason. They just following their own judgment. They think that should be secret, then that is secret. So those documents, those classified documents, if journalists disclose it, they will face legal troubles. And the government may sue them, and their organization will also face trouble. But there's also not an absolute thing that classified documents are forever cannot be
not immune
disclosed, because like last year, the very famous Pandora Papers, I believe for 100% that those journalists who work for the Pandora Papers, they definitely have access to a lot of classified documents. They actually dig out all those classified documents and put it inside the Pandora Papers. And I don't hear any troubles on them. So that's not fully immune, but
Well, that's because
there's
maybe
a lot of gray
they
area.
don't disclose where they got where they get their access from, right? Which leads me to another question. A lot of journalists cite anonymous sources. So then, what makes you decide whether an anonymous source is credible or not credible?
Okay, so the first thing is inside the industry, we as journalists, we will definitely try our best to, like, even though that subject say, oh, I want my name anonymous, I don't want my name inside the article, we will try our best to convince them to actually disclose their name inside the article, because as you said, for the credibility concern, and also we will try to tell them, like, because especially when they give a very powerful quote or very impactful quotes, or sometimes even controversial quotes, we will just tell them that if you give this quote anonymous, that will put bad image on you also, because it's like people will doubt who the hell said this, and what is the credibility of them. We will try to convince them to give us.
But isn't that
to
responsibility on you, the public, the person who's putting out the news, though? Doesn't that affect your credibility, not that other person's credibility?
But then I think it can also work this way, that let's say like the same situation, the person give like very controversial statement about something, but then for other people it'll be like, oh, this guy don't even have any proper credibility to even say that in the first place if the person is anonymous. But then if the person's name is disclosed, then maybe they can know.
And also anonymous inside journalism, anonymous in journalism doesn't necessarily mean we write, or this quote is from an anonymous source like that. No, sometimes they will have their background included, but they just don't want to disclose their name.
Mhm.
So for example, if you read some political news, they will have some quotes where they write an insider from certain political parties. So people will say, oh, this people is from that political party, or that certain corporate, or that certain company. So they would doubt that why this company cannot disclose these people's name. What are they hiding? So we try to tell them this kind of thing. Like, it's like it will also put dispute on your image if you just having your background disclosed but not your name. So there are a lot of ways for anonymous source. And another side of the perspective of this is the ethical concerns on maintaining the confidentiality, because sometimes if the people's name is disclosed, they will face trouble. So that's where inside our code of ethics, we also has a rule that we need to keep the privacy and also the confidentiality of our subjects if they demand to do so. But so it is a continuous struggle and debate between confidentiality and also credit. There's no one size fits all solution for this. You need to always evaluate the situation and just pick the best decision. That
the most rational reason, I would say, like the one that gives the less damage as much as possible. And then when you're talking about bad image, I think the press nowadays mainly have this stereotype that going on saying that fake news is a big branding for press nowadays. What do you think about it?
A public perception nowadays that media on purpose, tend to report things that aren't true in order to benefit certain people.
Well, that is a great question, actually. I would say because the word media is actually a very broad term. It doesn't just include the news organization. It also include advertising. It also include firms. It also include like blogs.
Sure, but then when you say fake news, it's quite specific to news reporting media, and therefore people relevant to what you're studying.
Real meaning of fake news is, yes, as you said just now, is referring to the news reported by news media which are not true. There's a term fake news, but at least in Malaysia, I don't know about the whole world, but at least in Malaysia, a lot of people they're actually using the word fake news for all kind of false information. But actually, fake news is not the only type of false information. We have, like, in false information itself, we have at least 3 types. The first one is misinformation, disinformation, also malinformation. All this word means different things, and fake news is just another branch of it. And fake news is specifically for news. But sometimes Malaysian public, when they see something on social media which they doubt the realness of it, they will say that is fake news. So it indirectly put a negative image on the news organization that they tend to publish fake news, and they tend to report things that are not true just in order to get readership or viewership. So in fact, I would say in Malaysia, if you really go to those news organization like Malay Mail, Malaysia Kini, Free Malaysia Today, The Star, New Straits Times, and for Chinese news like Sinchu Daily, Nanyang Xiangbao, and Oriental Daily, those news are actually credible, but some of them have the problem of clickbait. They put very fancy headlines, but actually the content is not really that fancy. But clickbait you cannot actually categorize clickbait as fake news, because clickbait is true, but it's just somehow exaggerating the content inside the headline to draw your eyes and also to lure you to click on their headlines.
Yeah, but then when you're exaggerating a truth, doesn't that make it a fake news already?
All right. So in terms of economic benefits, definitely, because news website earn money from you clicking. When you click, they can charge the advertising,
the ad revenue and everything.
They can have viewership. Yeah, they can have popularity. But in terms of journalistic and also long-term benefit, I would say no, because clickbait, as you say, when you exaggerate something, that content is not fully true already, because that is correct. And when the audience, like, they fall for your headlines for the first few times, and then after a few times, after the headlines, and they read the content, and then they say, hey, this content doesn't even match the headline. Like, the core of this content doesn't match the headline, so it is a clickbait. After a few times, the readers will go away from you, unless there are those readers who only read the headlines without even reading the content. So those readers will just keep continuing. But for most readers, I would say, after a few times, they saw you clickbaiting them, they will just leave you. And for long-term benefit, it's also not beneficial. And from the journalistic side, definitely not, because journalist's job is to report the truth. And the truth, you cannot put any possible emotional sentiment inside the truth that you are reporting, because that will affect the reader's informed judgment, because the readers the thing that you write need to be totally neutral, and only the readers, after they read them, they can make their own judgment on it. That is the most important journalistic principles that we need to follow. So in terms of benefits, for long term, it's definitely a bad thing, and also from the journalistic side, it is also not a good practice. Clickbait is just not a good practice.
Do you think it's becoming more and more common? Or in fact, this one goes to you, and also, what do you think of it? And the thing is, our generation is such that we don't like to read long things anyway, right? So
exactly. I already forgot what's the correct term for it, but then there's this research that has been found that people actually, like especially our age people, absolutely hate long paragraph. They only see anything
low
that
attention
is,
spans.
Exactly, very, very low attention span. So obviously, making it as a clickbait might attract the person, but then that just ruins the journalism, right? I feel like it just takes out the main part of journalism, which is transparency.
Actually, very true, because our generation, first thing, they don't like to read long paragraphs. But I would say, in terms of like how you manage a media organization, like, readers don't like to read long paragraphs. Also, it should not be the excuse for you to like producing clickbaity titles, because
I think it's an unintended consequence of having a blown out of proportion title when the article itself isn't of much substance. You're trying to get the viewer to view the article, but then when the viewer itself is apprehensive to click on it and rather instead just reads the main exaggerated title and starts spreading that around, it's a consequence that's not supposed to be there. No one intended it to be, but yet it's bearing fruit, isn't it?
Yeah, somehow it is true. It's an unintended consequences, because that is what the readers demand for. But I would say, like, I'm focusing on the topic of news now. It's like the readers also need to have that awareness that news is not something that should be really like bombastic or really like entertaining or really really like when you read it, you like boom. No. News shouldn't be like that because news is a serious thing. It is just a record of daily events that is happening around a community or around a country. So it is the nature of news is shouldn't be bombastic. It is just serious. So and inside our journalistic techniques of when we write the headlines, we also have a principle that you tell everything that the readers need to know inside the headline. Because if you go to those reputable news sites where they don't use clickbait headlines, you go to Malay Mail, you go to Malaysia Kini, you go to Free Malaysia Today, this kind of these three are the news sites that I like to read the most. When you don't even need to read the content, you read the headline, you can already know what is happening. And those headlines are not clickbait. So it is achievable. It's just like right now there's the perception that readers only read those kind of clickbaity headlines because they make it very fancy and also exaggerating. Somehow they produce the dramatic effect, and also somehow it produces the emotional effect, which are the easiest way to attract the readers. But in terms of news, I would say news is a serious record of certain event. It's just like how you read history. So the nature is like that. So when you want to read news, you should have already have that preparation inside your mind that what I'm going to access now is a serious record of things. So even though it is not fancy, it's not exaggerating, it is not drama, it's fine. That is the thing that I think the public should have.
I think at this part, I totally agree with Guan Xi because the perception is very important when you're looking at media and any other press in general. So I think we discussed a lot of things today. I want to ask you one last question. If you can describe journalism with 3 words, or even 2, up to you, how would you describe it? Let's just summarize everything that you think you have said today.
I just think of 2 words: honorable truth tellers. Yeah, I don't know if that is a good word, but yeah, because I think journalists, they are definitely the truth tellers, and they are definitely a job or a thing or a job or a profession that needs to be respected, just like the others. Because many people actually think that journalists are somehow like they just have nothing to do to just go ahead and dig out certain information that are not even my business. And some subjects or interviewees would think that journalists are very annoying by constantly asking them questions, try to dig certain information from them. But I just think if all people can think that journalists or the media are the pathway for them to make their voice heard by the public, journalism will definitely be a better field in Malaysia. Definitely will be better now.
That's a great way to summarize things. Thank you, Lew Guan Xi, for joining us. You've been listening to Youth Unhinged with Yuvaan and me, Karan Georgiman, and today we've had Mr. Lew Guan Xi to share some of his thoughts on journalism. I think we've had a great time. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.